Welcome back to you, baby doll pumpkins. I love and appreciate every single one of you. You're going to learn something today. You're going to learn Grayscale products. They are a staple of crypto. And when we speak about it, it's the biggest frontier you can get. Why? Because it means your coin is legitimized. Or is it? Not really. It's just a way for boomers to buy your token without knowing what the true fair value is. This is Link. I'm showing this post from like last week, friends. ChainLINK, $29 on the G-Link. Wow, what's happening here? Do they know something? No. This is the truth. The truth is, Grayscale products are for old boomers who think that crypto is for the skateboarding kids from the park. That's right. And you will get a nice pull. Isn't it funny? You're like, wait a minute. I saw ChainLINK at $10 to $11 when I was trading at this time. How come it's $29 on there? They must know something. All they know is crypto is for the nerd kids and they can't be bothered learning. They want to buy in their one location, the one source, the one website. That's it. They don't want to move around. They don't like wallets. They don't know how anything works. They don't want to know. Their brains aren't malleable anymore. It's true, right? As you get older, your brain gets less sticky. You can't move stuff around anymore in there. It's harder to open newer neural pathways. Even though you try, it gets harder and harder. When you're a very, very young child, you absorb absolutely everything. So that's why, you basically calcify yourself. ChainLINK only has $3 million of Link floating around. And it's just fascinating that, people just don't care. I mean, this is nuts. This happened in Grayscale, Bitcoin, and Ethereum. You know how that ended. They got wrecked. So it's not a good idea to touch any of these. But, when it first started moving, when it was like, when ChainLINK was like $11 or $10, and then this thing was like a 25% premium, we instantly thought, oh my gosh, they know something. They know something. Now the price has just gone up so stupid. You're like, what he's doing. So this is fascinating that we can actually see and identify this. People are going to use this to just build the narrative, friends, but don't believe anything. The only thing that matters is the Bitcoin price and sentiment. That's it. All these little things moving around, these fundamentals we learn from the bear market. Doesn't matter how much good news you put out. It was a bear market. Well, guess what? It doesn't really matter about the bad news now because you're starting to move into a bull market. Humans go through cycles of fear and emotion. That's just it. Fear and greed, fear and greed, fear and greed. That's really all that's going on. I also found this interesting. How did this dude, Sam Trabucco, get away with it? Now, he got a hair transplant to disguise himself. He retired from FTX pretty early, and then he just disappeared. Just wondering how this is like a Chad AI artist rendition drawing because it was making fun of the super Chad looking versions of SBF. Thought it was fascinating that these people, this is what happens when you fly so close to the sun, especially in crypto. They're going to use this as an example to continue to strangle the industry. But don't forget, friends, if there are people who you know the name of, who can impact your coin a lot, well, you're screwed because chances are one day they will get impacted. I've built upon this principle of Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett, one of his 4 key things when he looks to buy a company, one of the things he says is he goes, you got to analyze the management of the company. And he says he's like, think about the CEO of the company. He goes, you have to buy a company so that an idiot can run it. Why? He goes, because chances are one day they will. And he's basically saying, well, in the investment field, you're buying, so many stocks over the next 20 to 30 years of your life from when you start. You are going to come across times where, oh my gosh, there's like a literal incompetent buffoon who's running things. So he wanted a simple business that runs itself. Well, isn't it wonderful that we have crypto code, open source software that can do this? These people seemed really smart. They're like, well, this is the crazy part, right? You're like, oh, you don't need middleman, decentralization, and code that removes them all, right? That makes it open source. You don't need all that because you got these super smart people. Really? It was a Ponzi, baby. It was a Ponzi from day one. Lesson to learn there. Maybe when we look at crypto, the number one thing we got to look for, one of the key components is like, hey, I want a protocol or a coin that even a dum-dum can understand, because chances are one day a lot of people are going to need to understand it. But that's why the simple stuff is the best. That's why meme coins even existed. People who don't want to think can understand it. It's a very low barrier to entry. It works. You know what else works? The government against the people. This is a harsh reality we've got to deal with, right? The only crime that Soy Bankman-Fried actually did was crushing hopes of wealthy people. They already have all the money and power, but they don't have the popularity with the people at all times. If you give them hope of popularity and then you take it away, you embarrass them, that's the biggest crime. Now you're finished. That's what gets you jail time. These wealthy people, they don't care about the poor middle class. They don't care. I can literally point out today 4 mainstream influencer scammers. They are still around. And they can still raise money and do things that just they're out there. There's going to be more. There's going to be more. So what gives? Well, these people are scamming poor people and middle class people. They're not scamming big fish. Soy Bankman-Fried scammed big fish. You see this? So it became very apparent. He was in bed with the snake pit of subhuman trash, filth. Gary Gensler, Roca Negra. I'm not going to say this word. That family and others. You notice, friends, I'm not even going to write the real name on Twitter, Brunies. Don't be so silly. So he basically embarrassed them. What are you going to do about it? Well, you remember why crypto was invented in the first place. So we don't have to deal with this. There's going to be more cons. The government's conning us. Wall Street's conning us. Wall Street made such a big con in the GFC with JP Mosquito, Goldman Slugs. They were literally bankrupt. They're technically bankrupt. And they got the government in. They're like, you know what? We're going to change the law so that we're allowed to be a bank and then we can take in retail deposits. See, they changed the law, but you won't be able to change the law. And guess what? You don't want to go through that. Because, yeah, maybe you're not going to be in the company that gets rescued. Most likely you aren't, because you're not going to be buying big, blue chip, boring banks anyway. So there's a higher chance your company is going to get wrecked when you buy a stonk. So you see, a lot of these things, the puzzle pieces, they slowly fall into place. But at the end of the day, we can still afford mistakes. Now, we don't want to make mistakes. You don't want to, but you can afford them. And I just want to remind you, if you buy coins and they go down, it's not a real mistake, all right? It's part of the game. You don't have a 100% win rate. It's like, okay, you're a boxer. You got in, okay, you got punched a few times in the first round. Oh, it was a mistake to step in the ring. No, it's not a mistake. The real mistake would be to ignore crypto while I give you these sick laser beats. We're going to go through government debt. It's a sexy topic, isn't it? They only got 2 options, friends. 2 options. Don't forget this. Option 1, everyone loses. Option 2, poor people lose. Let me repeat that again. Okay, option 1, deflationary bust. A depression, that's the option. The debt can't get squared. It can't get squared either way. They don't print money. They let the money supply contract, right? All the debts get forced paid off. Everything has to mass liquidate. You know? So, for example, it's like a big Aave loan. It's like, oh my gosh, you're in debt $1 million, but your collateral's only worth $250,000. They go, all right, well, just literally give away the house for give away your collateral for $250,000. That's like saying, well, okay, you got a house for $1 million and your debt is, okay, $5 million. What are you going to do? Okay, you just have to liquidate at market. All right, well, the only price people can afford is like $300K because there's no one to buy it. And we have to liquidate it in the next 5 days because this is as everything starts tumbling together. And you're like, okay, well, you just sold a $1 million plus home for $300K to find the next level buy of somebody else who had cash. That is what would happen. This would happen in stocks. This happened everywhere. Real estate, not going to happen though. They already did this scenario. It was called the Great Depression, friends. The Great Depression, this happened. Here it is. The Dow Jones. Look at you. Make sure, friends, by the way, I hope you got your back. You're back very straight for this one. The Dow Jones went up and then it went down. Okay, big deflationary bust. Minus 90%. Bang. It was all over. Now, Of course, they were on a gold standard. They could not print the money supply hard enough. So what they couldn't do is, this is what they do now. When they print, they go, hey, poor people and middle class, you're going to have to get stealth taxed to pay everything back off. And it's probably going to take like 10 years. That's what they do now with inflation. But back then, they couldn't do it. They couldn't print fast enough. And everything had to collapse and they had to just reprice lower. Because there were just no buyers. They just had to find the clearing rate. So this is what would happen. No, it's not going to happen again because they have the money printer now. We're not on a gold money standard. So this is the thing, by the way. In this deflationary bust, friends, poor people actually win. Why? Well, look, everyone really loses, but the people who have cash and the people who have a job, like let's say you sell cigarettes, right? Maybe you dance on a pole. I don't know. Maybe you sell something that people are going to need in a recession no matter what. Food, for example. Well, in this scenario, you become one of the wealthiest people around because you're selling a good everybody needs. One, you can charge whatever you want, and you are making cash during the times no one else has got their job. So all the prices are down. So you can literally buy maybe that $1 million home. Yeah, you might be able to buy $1 million home for like $100K because you're selling food and maybe off your farmland and everyone needs it to eat. So, but who loses here? All the rich people. Because they had to give away their $1 million home for $100,000. Unspeakable lows. That's why wealthy people aren't going to do it. What do they do instead? They do option 2. Right? Option 1. Everyone loses. Option 2, poor people lose. The poor and middle class. Option 2 is an inflationary bust. That's what we're doing right now. They're printing money on the sly. They're not letting the banks go bust, and they're introducing these little 3-letter, 4-letter acronyms like the BTFP and these other weird words. They're just Microsoft Excel sheets moving around digits. They're not anything, it's just currency units. It's nothing special going on here. They just pretend it's special. So in this inflationary bust, the wealthy power remains. The companies don't have to sell their stocks at minus 90% down. Rich people don't have to sell their houses that were $1 million. They don't have to sell it for $100,000. The middle class gets robbed. How? The middle class loses it through purchasing power. You end up paying the tax through a lowered purchasing power, and it ends up happening over like 10 years. A long time. You just get used to the pain. And you don't even know what pain is. You're numb by this point. As long as everything just keeps working. That's why we see. Okay, yeah, petrol used to be maybe 18% of your wage. Now it's like 27%, for example. But you don't know. You're like, well, why has it gone up so much, right? Or food. Food used to be like, 22% of your weekly wage. Now it's like 36%. So you got basically destroyed. It's like the government came in and taxed you like an extra 30% to make up for it, just to get everything back on the path. So this is the path they do choose. And we are in crypto. Why? We're in crypto because that bucket sloshing around of all the currency and all the inflation going out, we're hoping some people out there go, wait a minute, I've got a lot of this paper trash. Why don't I just, throw it into this crypto thing for a while? And we hope enough people do that at the same time that it causes a pump to alert everybody else so they can hopefully rush in and say, well, friends, look, I know this is going to sound a bit nasty and crude, but at the end of the day, I don't care how you think about it. This is the game is we're in. The game is that, we're in, right? We are in now. And, Bitcoin, whatever it is, 20, 30, 40, 50K, whatever it is. You're hoping, that guy with the $1 million house, you're praying that in the next 10 years, that guy with the $1 million house, or squirrel, or duck, or woman, says, I've got 3 houses worth $1 million each. I want to sell one for 1 Bitcoin because I just want it. And then now you have $1 million Bitcoin. And what they've done is they've dumped a house. They've done a swap here. They've dumped a house onto the market, and then they've taken a Bitcoin off the market. And so if you had a Bitcoin or any other crypto, of course, what you would do is the opposite trade. So you would do is you would dump your 1 BTC and then you would go buy their house. It's just happening through crypto digital exchanges, but that's the end goal. I know no one talks about it like this because it sounds so crude and like, ugh. So you want people to like buy this at a really, really high price and get nothing for it? Yes. That's the game. It's a greater fool Ponzi theory. This is the whole game. This is why they keep printing money. More people get born. Economies keep getting bigger, more efficient. There's more units of things getting flown around. AI is going to come play a big role. That's the game, But, like we're laughing now. What are you doing? You're speculating in your mind that some sucker's going to come and buy a Bitcoin for $1 million. But let me tell you something. We're the suckers today. Max Kaiser bought Bitcoin at $1 Rooney. $1 Rooney. $1 do, okay? Where is he buying? Down here. Michael Saylor bought his bags up to 29,700x. His average price is like 29,000 for Bitcoin. So think about that swap. Max Kaiser puts in, a certain amount of money and like $29,700 to get that much Bitcoin. And then Michael Saylor does the opposite. He's like, I got 5 billion. Give me your $29,700 Bitcoin. That's the craziest part. That's just how the game works. But we're playing that. The game keeps getting bigger. And, it sounds weird. How can we be so sure? I don't know. There's 100 years of markets. If markets had gone to zero, they would have gone to zero, man. Humans, we speculate. We need a hedge. We need to do weird stuff. People come in. We store money. There's money units floating around. When we feel good, we buy stuff. That's just how the game works. That's why you can remove all the complexity here. Just take a freaking long-term buy and hold approach. And hopefully, maybe we get to participate in some euphoria and maybe take the other side of the crowd. Let's hope that comes sooner rather than later. Make sure you like, subscribe, belly button, all. Appreciate every single one of you. Catch you very soon.